Hello everyone, welcome to Hopeful Moments 1. Today, we're going to hear a story about the importance of protecting privacy, personal health, and reasonable measures when handling workplace harassment. It also raises the question of how companies should handle sensitive health-related issues of employees and the rights workers can demand to protect themselves in the workplace. Today's story will take you through an unexpected situation. After an emergency surgery to remove an 18-pound benign tumor and surviving a life-threatening ordeal, I had to face continuous harassment from a colleague, Aubrey. If you find this story interesting and full of meaningful lessons, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more valuable lessons. After a month of emergency medical leave, I returned to work with mixed emotions and an unforgettable story. It all began with what seemed like a routine checkup. After 10 years of being dismissed and not diagnosed properly, a new doctor who actually listened and cared about my symptoms decided to request an immediate MRI. And from there, everything changed. The MRI results revealed a large tumor deep in my abdomen. This tumor not only caused pain but also pressed on vital organs, severely affecting my health. While I was unaware of the seriousness of the situation, the doctor immediately had me sent into surgery within 24 hours. The surgery was an emergency, stressful situation. After the tumor was removed, I learned that it weighed 18 pounds, around 8 kilograms, a benign tumor that had seriously threatened my health. For the final week, I was in critical condition, almost facing multi-organ failure. I am truly lucky to be alive and given the chance to continue my life. Currently, I still face many unanswered questions about long-term damage to my body. Time will tell whether my organs have been permanently affected. However, I truly feel grateful and fortunate to still be able to wake up each day and continue living, even though just a week ago, I was on the brink of life and death. Now, I carry on with life with deep gratitude for everything I've been through. Mentally, I can't say that I've fully overcome all the difficulties after the surgery, but I am working hard to maintain stability. These challenges aren't easy to see on the outside, yet there's a noticeable change that everyone can see. I've gone from size 20 to size 8. This is an incredible change that none of my medical team, even the doctors and specialists, could have predicted. No one expected that an emergency surgery could lead to such a significant change. Still, I feel healthier and luckier than ever. Although I never imagined I could go through such a journey, every day is a gift that I cherish. When I returned to work after my recovery, I predicted there would be many questions from colleagues. The curiosity about what had happened to me was inevitable, especially when the change in my appearance was so noticeable. To handle those questions, I prepared a brief and clear answer: emergency surgery, but I'm fine now. This answer was simple, easy to accept, and usually made people feel relieved. Most people, with understanding and empathy, accepted this explanation without asking for more details. However, there was one colleague I didn't interact with often, and I never expected her to have difficulty accepting that answer: Aubrey. Aubrey, a colleague I rarely worked with, had a different approach. Instead of just nodding and changing the subject like most colleagues, she stared at me for a few seconds, as if trying to read the truth behind my words. I felt a deep concern in her gaze, and even though we hadn't had many chances to talk before, I knew she wasn't the type to overlook the small details. This made me realize that perhaps some people always feel a special connection and can see things others miss. On the first day back to work after my time off, I never expected a meeting that would make me feel so uncomfortable. Aubrey, a colleague with whom I rarely worked, came to me with a serious expression and opened with a statement that left me stunned. "I wish you had come to me to lose weight instead of resorting to such extreme measures. You'll gain it all back, you know. I'll wait." At that moment, I felt both anger and surprise rising within me. I was well aware of Aubrey's reputation, and even though we didn't work together often, I'd heard many stories about her. Aubrey always claimed to be a fitness expert, and even called herself a health coach, despite having no real connection to our company. She was famous for giving unsolicited health advice, especially her unkind remarks about colleagues' food choices. These comments often came with a lack of understanding and respect for others' personal rights. Aubrey's statement immediately made me uncomfortable. I couldn't understand why she thought she had the right to intrude so rudely into my personal decisions. When she asked me why I didn't try to lose weight by working hard instead of choosing surgery, I could only be stunned and speechless. Her question not only lacked tact but also showed an excessive judgment. I didn't want to explain the details of my situation to her because, in reality, surgery wasn't my only option, but a necessary life-saving measure due to the serious health condition I was facing. However, I felt that Aubrey's excessive concern had crossed the line of respect and tact. She didn't understand my circumstances and was making reckless remarks, even deliberately spreading false rumors. This made me feel very frustrated and uncomfortable. Not everyone can understand the decisions and choices that others make, especially in sensitive situations like this. Everyone has their own story and reason behind every action, and I think the important thing is to respect others' privacy and decisions, rather than making hasty and baseless remarks. In fact, I didn't need advice from someone like Aubrey, who had never truly understood my story. In the second week back at the company, I never expected that the challenges would continue to haunt me. One afternoon, while I was working late, Aubrey suddenly arrived at my office in workout clothes, which wasn't unusual but carried an air of sarcasm that I couldn't ignore. She smiled brightly and suggested that I go to the gym with her, saying, "If you're too scared to go alone, I can go with you." At that moment, I felt extremely uncomfortable and confused. It was only the second week after surgery, and my body was still weak. I wasn't allowed to lift heavy objects, do household chores like laundry, or even climb stairs, let alone engage in high-intensity gym exercises like she suggested. Aubrey's comment was not only ignorant but also rude. I don't remember exactly how I responded, but I do remember her walking away with a cold conclusion: "You'll gain the weight back because you're lazy." The next day, I was even more shocked when I heard that Aubrey had angrily talked about me in a meeting I couldn't attend. The reason I was absent was because I had to attend a follow-up appointment after surgery. How ironic. I don't know exactly what she said in the meeting, but from what I heard, she criticized me not just for losing weight, but also for my ability to do my job. Essentially, she suggested that if I couldn't devote time and energy to losing weight, I obviously couldn't perform my work. These words not only broke my heart, but also made me feel unjustly criticized. Aubrey had crossed a line by not understanding my situation and yet judging and evaluating me so harshly. After that meeting, the HR department requested a reconciliation between Aubrey and me, with a red flag issued to her. For a company like ours, reconciliation could directly affect year-end bonuses, and this left me feeling incredibly frustrated. I couldn't understand why I had to be the one involved in this reconciliation when clearly, Aubrey was the one behaving unprofessionally and disrespecting me. She not only invaded my privacy but also intentionally hurt me with disrespectful comments. I couldn't fathom why I should be held accountable for her actions when she was the one who created the issue. During the reconciliation, I felt cornered. Aubrey, with an upset expression, started talking about how she felt triggered by my new body. She even said that I should have thought about other people's feelings and warned her before undergoing surgery. I couldn't believe what she was saying. My surgery was an emergency, and I was under such intense pressure that I barely had time to inform my husband or pick up my child from preschool. I couldn't understand why she thought I had an obligation to inform her about my personal decisions and health. I didn't owe her any explanation, and her demands just made me feel even more hurt and invaded. I could empathize with the fact that Aubrey seemed to be dealing with some personal issues of her own, but that cannot justify her behavior. Everyone faces their own difficulties, but no one has the right to impose their discomfort on others, especially when they don't fully understand someone's situation and condition. I felt like Aubrey was using her personal emotions to justify her thoughtless actions and disrespect for my privacy. When HR spoke up, they said that while they couldn't ask me to explain my medical history, if I shared information about the surgery and the reasons behind it, it could help clarify things. However, I immediately reacted and made it clear that I was under no obligation to share any personal medical information with anyone, whether colleagues or anyone else in the company. That information was my private right, and no one had the right to request it unless I voluntarily shared it. I also emphasized that Aubrey's lack of emotional intelligence couldn't be used as an excuse for her to invade my privacy. HR's response left me feeling powerless. They said that if I didn't want to share personal information, they couldn't stop Aubrey from harassing me. That comment was a shock, making me realize that in a work environment that should protect privacy and respect, I was facing a system that was not strong enough to defend me from a colleague's intrusion. I felt extremely disappointed and frustrated, as not only was Aubrey acting wrongly, but HR wasn't helping me resolve the issue clearly and fairly. After Thanksgiving, I received support from my doctor to complete the paperwork to request job accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, so that I could work from home. I was still recovering from the surgery and experiencing some mild complications, not serious but enough to require more rest. However, another reason I chose to work remotely was to avoid Aubrey. My company wasn't fond of remote work, and that upset them, but I had no other choice. For me, recovery and mental peace were the most important things at that moment. Yet, it seemed that Aubrey didn't understand that. She continued to send me workout videos and diet plans, things I hadn't asked for and definitely didn't want. I felt extremely uncomfortable that she was continuing this behavior, despite me clearly stating that I didn't need her intervention with my weight loss. When I forwarded those videos and diet plans to HR, they responded coldly, noted, "Do you know when you'll return to the office?" This attitude only made me more disappointed and made me feel abandoned while facing such a stressful situation. I have thought a lot about escalating this issue to the company level through a labor lawyer. Am I going too far? Is asking the company to take responsibility and intervene too much? I wonder if I can handle this situation without taking it to a more serious level. But right now, I can't help but think that Aubrey's actions have hurt me significantly. I'm still in a sensitive state after surgery, my body hasn't fully recovered, and I don't have enough energy to engage in a legal battle or internal dispute at this time. What frustrates me even more is Aubrey's insistence on imposing her views on weight loss onto me. She doesn't understand that actions like hers, her unreasonable and imposing advice, are exactly what I've been facing for years. Doctors dismissed me, and now she's continuing to do the same in her own way. The feeling of being pressured and having my privacy invaded is something I just can't tolerate any longer. I have worked for this company for 5 years, and now, I just feel exhausted and disappointed with how they are handling this situation. Despite my best efforts to overcome every difficulty, the lack of care and respect I've received makes me feel abandoned. I just want this to end immediately, no more dealing with this discomfort and stress. It's unbelievable. I know Aubrey is quite outrageous and deeply offensive, but facing a colleague like her is more understandable when considering how the company's HR department is handling the situation. It's hard for me to accept that a company could let such a serious issue pass without proper intervention. Aubrey has the right to her own feelings about weight loss, but those feelings should not be expressed at the workplace. And frankly, I think she should keep them to herself anywhere else too. She has no right to interfere in my matters, harass me about my body, or even comment on how I achieve weight loss results. No one asked her to share her opinions or judge others' actions, especially when her remarks are baseless and disrespectful. She certainly has no right to call my surgery of surgery, a word I can't believe she used in a work environment, or claim that my body makes her triggered. Not only is that unreasonable, but it's also a serious violation of my privacy. And her remark, "You'll gain it all back, I'll wait," only made me feel more humiliated, as though she's waiting for my failure and wants to interfere with my personal life in an unacceptable way. I don't understand why she thinks she has that right, and I honestly can't fathom the motive behind those rude words. But as I've said, she's clearly a difficult person. What makes me even more disappointed is the response from HR. They reacted in a way I couldn't have imagined, and in some ways, it's even stranger than Aubrey's behavior. You'd think that an HR department responsible for protecting employees' rights wouldn't let this continue without timely intervention, but instead, they remained silent and gave vague responses that weren't strong enough. This not only made me feel abandoned, but also made me feel insecure about how the company is addressing this issue. HR should have clearly understood that they can't legally allow one employee to harass another about a medical condition, whether it's a real condition or something Aubrey imagined. Especially in my case, where I'm recovering from surgery and have requested to work remotely to protect my health. The Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, clearly states that an employee cannot be discriminated against or harassed because of their health condition or any condition they are presumed to have. This is absolutely correct and must be applied seriously. But the silence and inaction from HR made me feel as if they don't value my rights. I can't understand why the company doesn't have the courage to protect employees like me from such blatant intrusions by a colleague. To tell me that they can't help unless I share my private medical information with Aubrey. No. They may not be wrong in saying it might make her stop, but A, Aubrey has no right to ask for that, and they shouldn't support the idea that she needs a good enough reason to stop, and B, they are obligated to stop her behavior, regardless of whether I share information or not. And asking me to reconcile with her? No. Now, they're acting strangely regarding my ADA work accommodation, and in this situation, they ignore me when I report Aubrey's new harassment? This is a huge issue. The whole picture, the reconciliation, the feeling you get about your remote work, and how they're elevating the issue when you try to discuss Aubrey, is enough to make talking to a lawyer about your options the next reasonable step. Not necessarily because you want to sue, hopefully not to that extent, but because lawyers can help a lot with negotiating with your company on your behalf or advising you on how to protect yourself. The situation I'm facing is not only an example of disrespect in the workplace, but also reflects the company's failure to protect employee rights. The fact that a colleague can casually harass and invade my privacy while HR takes no appropriate action made me realize how important it is to protect personal rights at work. The lesson learned from this story is that we should not hesitate to speak up for ourselves when we are violated, and we must know our rights in such situations. The company and those around us must respect each person's privacy and personal choices while ensuring a fair work environment where all employees are treated with respect and fairness. When facing unfair situations, seeking legal support and protecting oneself is not just a right, but also a responsibility for all of us.